Donald Trump goes on CNBC and says that the banks are not lending money no matter who you are. He doesn't know why. Demcad says there's no money out there no matter how good your deal is. If you go to the bank, they virtually laugh at you when you ask for the money. They don't have money, or they're hoarding money. Okay, Demcad guesses that they're hoarding the money. They're getting money from the government. Yes, the government's calling it a bailout. Actually, however, it is a buyout. If you really look at it, the government is borrowing money from the bank and printing it up, saying, look, bank, here's some money that we're going to borrow from you. We just printed it ourselves. That you can lend to us in order to rescue you. It's kind of like when a house is for sale and the owner finances, the owner being the bank, except the owner is being forced to finance the bailout, which is really a buyout, by the government. The government is shoving it down the bank's throat, and the bank is holding on to it because, first of all, they want to pay for all the property that has been foreclosed on. Money lent by the bank was to pay for property at a kind of inflated price, to say the least, which after a time decreased in value. Okay, we all know that part. Now, the banks now own this property, but they don't want to own it. They want to sell it so that people start paying for it again. With real money, not some stuff like the government made. They want to pay off the foreclosed properties at an accurate value. Okay, so the bank is trying to figure out how much of this government bailout money could we possibly take and not cause too much damage to our economy. How much can we tell the government that we really don't need, so why don't they just take it back and burn it or something? Because that's the only way that we can be released from this debt. A lot of people want to make banks sound all shady, and like the Federal Reserve is so, secretive and a dastardly, sinister organization with the mind to take over the world. But of course, everybody puts their money in the bank. The government saves money in the banks. Big companies save money in the banks. The banks, everybody who needs to borrow money, go to the bank. Remember the old robber during the Depression time, Sammy something or other, or Willie something or other, and they said, why do you rob banks? And he said, because that's where the money is. So, because that's where the money is, everybody thinks the banks are manipulating us and enslaving us. Actually, we enslave ourselves. The bank doesn't ask us to move into this house when they'll just shove all this money up our ass and say, give it back to me. If we go to them and they say, well, if you want that much money, you're going to have to give me back this much, okay? It's the best I can do. So they're trying to help you achieve the American dream, which is whatever you think you can afford to make a dream become true. People think Federal Reserve is so sinister because it is privately owned. Well, yeah, it's a good thing that it's privately owned. It's your money that is in there. It's all of our money. It's not the government's money. Where, this guy did a little slip-up in his video. Although I like this man's videos, because he often puts the real issues, not the reflex issue of the day that we're all supposed to be all up in arms about. He was wrong, however, when he said that they're getting money from the government. Okay, the government really doesn't have any money. It's your money. People in positions of power, you must have honorable men who have proven their honor in charge, or the people will become suspicious of those men who are in power. They have to be honest, just men with integrity. I believe most of the members of the Federal Reserve, though I know none of them personally, and I'm sure that there's a bad apple in every bunch, Bill Bernanke and Timothy Geithner, who are organizing a coup and have set it up like falling dominoes, and with their media buddies at their propaganda arm, NBC/CNBC, subsidiaries of General Electric, with the chief executive officer being one Jeffrey Immelt, who is one of Barack Obama's chief financial officers. So you have a cabal of very smart, very rich, very powerful, and very unhonorable men advising a dictator wannabe. Okay? That's the bad part. But, for the most part, these are good men in the Federal Reserve. They already have all the power and influence, don't you see? They have all the money. They have everything they want. What reason is there for these men to try to enslave us and try to rip us off? If they rip us off and they screw with the money supply and they print more money than we actually have, then they become poor men. They have a reputation to uphold. They have a standard to maintain. I believe that if the bankers and members of the Federal Reserve Board who suspect that what I have told you about is actually happening, they might not be able to say actually that they believe that they are being taken over by the government. That's why, like Donald Trump said, you can't borrow any money, because these banks don't want to spend that money out. They're trying to figure out a way, I believe, to give it back to the government. To say, hey, we don't want this. We don't want these bailouts. That's why some of the banks have just said, none at all for me. Timothy Geithner, Treasury Secretary, plus he wants to be the chief of the SEC, plus he wants to be the chief of the FDIC, so they can just go around hiring and firing chief executives in every sector of the market and pick and choose who they want, plant their men in place like they did with A.I.G. You know, sending off all them executives, getting you all upset about the bonuses, and then yanking back 90% plus of those bonuses. In essence, buying the largest insurance company in America, if not the world, for $13 to $16 million, depending on what you say the buyout, the CEO bonuses, which were taxed to 90% plus in return to the government. Now, of course, those executives left, and they have been replaced by new men, right? The government comes in, buys A.I.G. 80% of the stock. I heard Barney Frank say, we're essentially own A.I.G. You know, 36 cents a share they paid for that company. A company with trillions of dollars in assets and holdings. Back to my takeover conspiracy paranoia theory, which I hope is not actually true. I'd love to be wrong, believe me. Goldman Sachs, others, they're trying to give this money back. They're trying to find a way to give it back. You know, either by first refusing it to begin with, or once they got it, saying, oh no, this is no good. Alright, so the government told them, no, you keep it. You hold on to it. Consider it a down payment. Hey, this is a... Let's just tell... I'm Goldman Sachs. Okay, here's the government. Ooh, man, I got me a live one. Now, those were fishing reel noises. So the government's refusing the money. I forget the whole story. It was like something really fast on some news report. That's when it made me think, that's why Goldman Sachs is trying to give back money, because they have gotten like $13 billion or something from A.I.G. out of the bailout money, and they have come to the conclusion, like, anything that's part of this bailout is worthless. So they don't want to see that money at their doorstep or in their safes and vaults and accounts, because they know that that is the bitter pill, it's the hook, it's the, poison, that once you take it, you're part of La Cosa Nostra, this thing of ours, this USSR-ish cabal, consumed as prey to the government machine. Read the label. The label being your Federal Reserve note, if it's signed by Timothy Geithner, it's not $1 anymore. So,